Alright, so there's a lot to talk about when it comes to trans issues, and I try to cover as many as I possibly can. This is something that I actually covered 5 years ago on my channel, when the transgender bathroom issue was a hot topic. Well, it's good to talk about it again. For those of you who saw my video 5 years ago, I had a very simple solution. Make a third bathroom that's specifically meant for trans people, whether if it's in a mall or a store, whatever. Of course, that can be difficult in terms of like structuring the building, but it occurs to me now, thinking back, well, do all trans people, trans men, and trans women share that one bathroom? Well, then it doesn't really solve the issue, right? I guess then you would need 4 bathrooms. Men, women, trans men, trans women. 4 fucking bathrooms. But the more you think about this issue, the more complicated it gets. And it's not just bathrooms. It's also about change rooms. And you know what? The difficulty is not just for the discomfort of the people in the change room. It's also for the discomfort and confusion of the trans person themselves. Put yourself in their shoes. What must it be like trying to decide which bathroom to go into? Do you go into the bathroom that you identify as? Assuming you actually have dysphoria and you're not just a trans trender, by the way. But do you go in to the bathroom that you identify with? Or do you go into the bathroom that you look like? Because I can't imagine the sheer difficulty that, let's just say, a biological man, right? He's about to go to a bathroom or a change room. And he has dysphoria, okay? He really is a trans woman. I get that confused a lot. But anyway, a biological man identifying as a woman. He approaches the door and goes, well, I am trans. I identify as a woman, so I can go in the women's change room. But wait a minute. I still look like a man. I might make the women feel uncomfortable. I might make kids in the change room feel uncomfortable. And then they go over to the men's change room. But should I go in here? I have dysphoria and I identify as a woman. Should I go in the men's change room? And that dilemma must be so fucking difficult. So we're going to discuss the whole thing and break it down. About a month ago this happened, but it's being discussed by people a lot recently. Saturday Showdown is in the works over trans blow-up at Wee Spa. The Tony Koreatown Health Club became the scene of a showdown over nudity and gendered space after a customer confronted spa staff about a trans woman with male genitals being allowed to disrobe in the spa's female section. Now here's the thing. They are allowed to do that because that's what SJWs demanded. SJWs demanded that trans people be allowed in the bathroom that they identify with. So you can't complain when it happens. But you know what? Before I continue, this brings up a very good point about the hypocrisy of SJWs again. They will say trans people go in the bathroom that they identify with, not what they look like physically, visually. But they only complain when it's a man. Because if a man goes in the women's change room and the women see his penis, he is called, a pedophile, or he's claiming that he's assaulting people, etc. But if a woman who identifies as a man goes in the men's change room, there's no complaint. There's certainly no complaint from the men in there because they like what they're seeing, assuming it's a biological woman who still has her breasts and stuff. The men in the change room will like what they're seeing. That's for sure. But then also, just in general, in our world, we know that in like every capacity, women can do whatever they want, and they don't get criticism. So yes, I agree, it's difficult for all trans people, but it is definitely easier for biological women than it is for biological men, like a million times easier. But SJWs will only complain if it's a biological man in the women's bathroom. But if it's a biological woman in the men's bathroom, no one says a damn thing. And you can laugh at the stupidity of that if you want, because it is stupid. But it's also a problem that needs to be looked at and resolved. By the way, it's important to know before I go any further, apparently this entire situation was a hoax, but I do want to point out that hoax or not, it is still very telling of what actually goes on, so we're going to talk about it regardless if it's a hoax or not. With threats of boycotting against the spa. Why? You see, now this is the weird thing. SJWs push to have trans people in the bathroom they identify with, and now you want to boycott the spa for doing exactly what you asked for? Is this just your backwards fucking brains, SJWs, or are you only boycotting because it was a biological man, and that's not okay in your mind, but it would be okay if it was a biological woman? Is this just your hypocrisy, or is it your lack of brain cells? Like, what exactly is this? Now you're boycotting against something that you supported? Okay, like, what the fuck ever. About the rights of trans people to use women's space versus the rights of cisgender females to not be exposed to male anatomy. Now, before I play the video, I just want to point out a couple things about the protests, because I saw videos of it. To no surprise, the protesters are complete morons. They didn't even really know if they were protesting the spa or the situation itself or trans rights, because they're like fucking morons who just fling shit at a wall. They don't even care where the shit comes from. And then the very peaceful Antifa came to the protest to peacefully and gently escorts the evil Nazi people who are against trans people. Okay, I'll be realistic as to what actually happened. There were some homophobes there who supported the woman in the video complaining about the trans person. I get that, and the complaint is only half correct, because trans people are valid, even if they're doing something that's kind of inappropriate. They're still valid human beings. And there were some conservatives there who just said, no, get all trans people out of the bathroom no matter fucking what. And although that might be ignorant of them to protest in that form, Antifa came and fucking beat those people up, including old people. But I'm sure CNN will tell you that Antifa was being peaceful. So, let's watch the video.
We spa, so it's okay. I just want to be clear with you. It's okay for a man to go into the women's section, show his penis around the other women, young little girls underage. Your spa, we spa, condone that.
So as you can see, the spa was okay with it, as SJWs requested. So why you're fucking protesting is beyond me, but everything in SJW is fucking beyond me. Anyway, the point of this, though, is yes and no. Yes, trans people should be able to go into the bathroom that they identify with. But at the same time, the women in there, as well, especially the kids in there, should feel comfortable. So where do we draw the line? It's very difficult, but I think I have at least somewhat of an answer, so we'll get to that soon.
Is that what you're saying? Like I asked. It's so he can stay there. He can stay there. What sexual orientation? I see a dick. It lets me know he's a man. He's a man. He is a man.
Well, yeah, a biological one, but yeah.
He is not no female. He is not a female. He is not a female. Hold on. He is not a female, sweetie. Okay, girls down there, other women who are highly offended for what they just saw. And you did nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, you sided with him. So We Spa is in agreement with men that just say they are a woman and they can go down there with their penis.
You see, now that's another thing we need to, figure out. Are the people who, claim to be a certain gender that's not what they are biologically, are they doing it because they actually have dysphoria, or are they lying to get in the other bathroom? Maybe they're pedophiles. Because we've literally already seen numerous cases of trenders who try to get into bathrooms or change rooms or whatever just because they're pedophiles or perverts, and they want to see either naked women or possibly naked kids or whatever it might be. We literally have cases of this. But is there any way of actually proving that a person is really trans or just a pedophile? Can you legally ask a person for proof that they actually have dysphoria? I don't think you can. Like, this situation is so much more difficult than people think it is. And as far as proving that you actually are trans, I don't see any way of solving that one.
And get into the women's section? Is that what you're saying? What really? What law?
everything back.
So women can go into the men's with their breasts. Okay.
And then this shit happened, we're not gonna come back.
Yeah, you shouldn't. Y'all wouldn't come back either. Yeah.
She's like, so women can go in the men's change room with their boobs? Yeah, I mean, for the purpose of fairness, technically yes, and I assure you the men there would not complain. The women would complain about a man in there, but I assure you the man would not complain about women in there, guaranteed.
Yeah, get your money back.
Everything.
You got a man with his penis talking about he's a woman. He ain't no woman. Yeah, give her money back.
Are you talking about a transgender person?
There's no such thing as transgender. He has a dick. Okay? He has a penis. His penis is hanging out. Okay, no, I'm not one. Actually, I'm a woman who knows how to stand up and speak up for my right.
But anyway, yeah, so there is a part 2, but it's mostly just that guy there telling her off and calling her a transphobe, which she is. Like, don't get me wrong, the woman filming is a transphobe. She literally just said that there's no such thing as trans. But transphobe or not, there is still a point here to be made. And the protesters are so fucking stupid they can't see both sides of this. Yes, trans people are valid. But women feeling uncomfortable in the change room, especially kids, or I know it's obviously less common for a man to feel uncomfortable looking at a biological female who claims to be trans, but still it can fucking happen. And it all comes down to how do we solve this issue. Same thing as the bathroom thing. You could just create 2 more change rooms, one for trans men and one for trans women, or you could create some rules. And I know the SJWs will call these rules transphobic, but if you can come up with a better fucking solution, then by all means come up with it. Because apparently, simply just the employee saying, okay, so are you are you trans? Yes, I identify as a trans woman, or I identify as a trans man. Okay, in that case, you go in the woman's bathroom and you go in the man's bathroom. That can certainly cause some issues based on what you look like, or if you've had operations yet, or whatever. I mean, let's be specific. Even people, and whenever I talk about trans stuff, I always use Blair White as an example, because she's a great example of a trans person who actually is trans and looks like a female, but has her penis. And there's a lot of trans men who don't chop their penis off. There's a lot. So someone like Blair, right? Because you could say, well, you go in if you're trans, go in the bathroom that you look like. Okay, all right, fine. But then someone like Blair, who looks like a woman and even has breasts, she goes in the women's bathroom, pulls her pants down, and then boom, there's a penis. It is so fucking difficult. There are so many factors to consider here. What do you look like? What do you identify as? Who's in the bathroom? Will a kid be uncomfortable? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. And then depending on what bathroom you're told to use by the staff, they might consider you transphobic for that too. We have to put some things in place here. And I haven't ironed out everything of how it should be done, but here's some ideas. Tucking. Trans people, like Blair, do something called tucking. It's where they apparently, from what I obviously I don't know fucking how it works, but from what I hear, trans people like Blair tuck their penis kind of like underneath themselves to hide it. I don't know, do that. Maybe all trans people should be required to do that. Maybe all trans people should be required to walk around covered in a towel the whole time. I know they're being singled out, but what else do you want me to fucking say? Maybe if you don't create new bathrooms, like entirely new bathrooms, you have to create sections within the already existing bathroom with very specific areas with change rooms and curtains and doors that are meant specifically for trans people to block off what kind of parts they have. Because you have to consider both sides. Just because trans people are valid doesn't mean that a woman or a young female child wants to see a penis. And it doesn't mean that a young boy wants to see boobs on a trans man. It simply doesn't mean that. So there is a balance here on both sides. And those are just some of the ideas I've come up with to solve this problem. But merely screaming transphobia, boycotting, singling out trans women, biological men only, and protesting, rioting, Antifa beating people up, and SJWs contradicting themselves, that is not how you solve the problem. And that would also be why the problem has been going on since 2015 and it hasn't been solved yet. What do you guys think? Because it really is a big issue.